So watching Melissa run, you can see that Melissa runs right up on her toes, and she's generally quite tall in a position. We've only got a short clip here, so what I've done is actually stop some of the videos, and you can see from a body position she's quite tall, leaning ever so slightly forward with the upper body, which is absolutely perfect, which is where we want to be. Looking tall, running, looking forward. And then we're looking at her elbow position here, her arm position. And you can see that actually her arms at the moment are a little bit low. And I'd like to see her raise those elbows up a little bit, or raise her fists up a little bit, keeping her elbows where they are, so that her arms are moving backwards and forwards. Onto her foot plant, you can see that where her foot strikes the ground is where the yellow circle is there, and we need to just get her foot to strike the ground underneath the body rather than just in front of the body. But we also need to lengthen Melissa's stride. So to do that, what we need to do now is also to lift her knee a little bit. At the moment she doesn't really have a huge knee lift, and we can get a lot more knee lift out of that. But then you need to put the foot on the ground with a high cadence, flick the foot through, so you're pulling the foot through with the hamstring a little bit more. Pulling the foot through with the hamstring, if we raise the knee, we also need to increase the heel kick, or the heel raise at the end of the run, so that you're in this nice tall position and you've already driven off the floor, but this is the maximum that your heel gets to, and we need to continue to develop that. So looking at Nicola run, you can see that Nicola looks a little bit more sat back in a running position, and she's certainly striking the floor with her heel. So you can see as she puts her foot down, it's almost like she's flat-footed. So what we're going to do now is just look at that. And actually her body position itself isn't bad as she drives off the floor. However, what we also can look at there is look at the position of her arms. And she's using her arms to drive forward, but she's driving up. And what we need to do is get her to try and lift that forearm just so it's nearly horizontal, so that the arms move backwards and forwards. And you still use them to drive, but you use them to drive forwards rather than up. Now, let's have a look at Nicola's foot plant. And this shot clearly shows that as Nicola puts her foot on the floor, it's heel first and the toes are still up in the air, and it's in front of the body. So remember before we were talking about Melissa, when she's landing underneath the body, we need to try and make sure that Nicola lands underneath the body and just works a little bit more on her heel raise. Her knee raise is actually pretty good, but her heel raise could go up a little bit closer. That angle needs to be nearer to sort of 55 degrees. Looking at her knee raise, that's pretty good, but what we need Nicola to do is really work on landing on her toes and staying up on her toes for the entire run. Watching Vicky run, we can see that again Vicky looks a little bit like Nicola in terms of she's sat back a little bit and her feet are landing heel first on the floor. We can also see that Vicky's arms are a little bit low as she's running along. She's not really getting that arm lift. And here if we look at her body position's not bad. She possibly needs to lean just a little bit further forward to try and get that emphasis of moving the centre of gravity just a little bit further forward. So we're leaning into the run. And if we lift her arms up, we really could do with getting them a good almost 90 degrees to where she's running from, and really just trying to get them to move backwards and forwards as we've already discussed. Looking at a heel raise, it's not too bad, but again we could get a little bit closer to her bum, so lifting her feet up just a little bit more will help lengthen that stride. But this is where Vicky's really starting to struggle with her run form. She's got putting her heel down first, which is basically putting the brakes on every time she puts her foot on the floor. So we really need Vicky to work on getting up on her toes, just like this picture here. And this is actually Vicky with a knee raise. And a knee raise, again, not bad at all. I think we can get a little bit more out of that knee raise and stay up on your toes. So, as we watch Diane running, you can see that Diane leans quite a long way forward and gets a much more neutral running position. She's got quite a nice leg stride as well, and her feet seem to strike the ground underneath the body, although they do strike the ground quite flat. And if we look at that a bit slow motion or in pictures, you can see that her body position is actually very good. 80 degrees is about the sort of angle that you're really looking for. 75 to 80 is the target. What we can also see is Diane's elbows are quite, or our forearms are very low as she runs, and she needs to. Everybody needs to keep those arms at 90 degrees. So you're really sort of moving the arm backwards and forwards, not up and down. What we can see in this shot is two things: the heel raise, which is about 67 degrees, and the foot plant, which is a straight 90 degrees, which means she's landing square on the flat of her foot. And the heel raise, we're looking for nearer 60 degrees. You really need to get those heels a lot higher. And then finally, we're looking at the knee raise. As we raise the knee, we're looking for something in the region of about 115 degrees. So getting those knees up a little bit higher and landing on our toes. And finally, we're going to watch the Rachel running for the ladies. And we can see from Rachel's running style, compared to Diane, she just looks like she's running a little bit further back, looking a little bit more sat back and upright. And she's also landing square on the foot. You can see that she is more upright. Remember, Diane was 80 degrees? Well, this is 88 degrees, and you're a lot more vertical as you run. What we can also see in the next shot is where the elbows are. And again, you can see that the elbows are sort of hanging down by the hip. Let's get them right up. Let's get them at 90 degrees so they're literally moving backwards and forwards. You watch Emma Snowsill run, her hands are right in front of her chest. Looking at the foot plant, again, you can clearly see that that's landing flat on the floor. So we really need to get up on your toes. Stay up on those toes. Don't put your heel down. Keep the heel off the floor. Again, with the heel raise, that's actually pretty good. If you could lean slightly forward, we could get inside that 60 degrees. You're only 63 there. That's not bad at all. And then finally, knee lift. You're getting about, I think it's 130 something. We could go a lot higher with your knee lift, and you can get it right up to inside the 120s. And I think if you stay up on your toes and just lean a little bit forward, you'll actually fly.